Operations with integers. It spans 3 sections in our textbook, specifically sections 1.4 through 1.6, and it covers all 4 operations dealing with both positive and negative integers: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. I'm going to go ahead and start with addition, typically the first operation in the order of operations. And let's do a quick problem. So let's say I have a -6 plus 5. Pretty simple addition problem with 2 integers. This particular problem has both a positive and a negative integer. So here we have a positive integer, or here we have a negative integer, and over here we have a positive integer. And there are a few rules that address the addition of integers with different signs. And here's the rule for addressing addition of integers with different signs. You first figure out which of the integers is larger, simply numerically. In this case, the 6 is numerically larger than the 5. And the integer with the larger numerical value is going to end up giving you the sign of your answer. In this case, since the negative is the greater numerical, the 6 is the greater numerical value and it has a negative sign, our answer automatically will have a negative sign. Then, if you have different signs, the second part of the rule tells you to take the difference of the absolute values. The absolute value of -6 is 6. The absolute value of 5 is 5. And the difference between 6 and 5 is 1. So the answer is a -1. We figured out the negative by looking at and finding the larger numerical integer, and we use the sign of that larger integer, and then to find the actual value we take the difference of the absolute value of the difference of the absolute values of the 2 integers, and in this case that is 1. So if the 2 integers have different signs, you take the difference of their absolute values and you use whatever sign is attached to the larger numerical integer. Let's do another example. Let's say I have a -8 plus 11. So the same thing here. We're first going to figure out what sign is the answer going to have. And the two here have different signs. The 2 integers here have different signs. We have a negative integer and we have a positive integer. Thus, we look at the larger numerical value. We have 8 and 11. 11 is obviously larger. In this case, the 11 is a positive number because it has no sign in front of it. This plus belongs to the addition, so this plus does not belong to the 11. But since the 11 has no sign, in mathematics, not having a sign in front of a number automatically implies a positive value. So since the 11 is a larger numerical value and it is positive, the answer is right away going to be positive. I'm going to put a plus there, or you don't put a sign at all, because once again, no sign implies a positive. Then, sorry, I forgot to label them. This was our negative, and this was our positive integer. Then we're going to go ahead and take the absolute values of the 2 numbers. The absolute value of -8 is simply 8. The absolute value of positive 11 is 11. And remember, the absolute value is simply the distance that that integer is from 0. And what is the difference? In this case, it's 3. The difference between 11 and 8 is 3. So our answer is a positive 3. Now what happens if the 2 integers have the same sign? Well, you've seen this quite a bit, and you automatically work this out. You just never thought about the rules that are attached to it. So, for example, we can have 5 plus 7. Now you know what the answer to this is, but let's figure out exactly why that's the case. Both 5 and 7 are positive numbers. No symbol in front of 5, no sign in front of 5, that implies it's positive. This plus belongs to the addition operation, no sign in front of the 7, which implies it's positive. So here you're adding a pair of numbers that are both positive. Whenever you have two integers with the same signs, first you find their absolute values again. In this case, the absolute value of 5 is 5, the absolute value of 7 is 7, and you add the absolute values. The sum in this case of 5 and 7 is 12. And to figure out what sign to use, you use the signs that the two integers came with originally. Since we're now dealing with integers that have the same sign, they both come with the same sign. In this case, they both come with a positive sign. So positive 12 or just 12 is the correct answer in this case. But what if you have something like this, -3 plus a -6? It's different than the problems here because both of the problems here were different signs, a positive and a negative. Here we're dealing with two integers that have the same sign. So the rules that I showed you here apply. The first thing you want to do is figure out what sign you're going to use. And the sign to use is whatever sign the two integers came with. They're both negative. That's the only sign that you can use. So the answer is automatically negative. So if you're adding two integers that have a negative sign, automatically the sign of the answer is negative. Then just like before, you find the absolute values. The absolute value of -3, how far -3 is from 0, is 3. The absolute value of -6, how far is -6 from 0, is 6. And then you add the two absolute values if you have the same signs. So the sum is simply an I. We figured out the sign, now we know the value, and now we have the answer. So here are two scenarios with the addition operation with integers. We have different signs. You figure out the sign of the answer by looking at the larger numerical value, in this case the positive, in this case the negative, and then you take the difference of the absolute values of the two integers. The difference of 6 and 5, the difference of 8 and 11. If they have the same signs, you use whatever sign for the answer that the two integers come with. They're both positive, positive answer. They're both negative, negative answer. And then you take the sum of the two absolute values, the sum of 5 and 7, the sum of 3 and 6, and that is your answer. Now we're going to talk about subtraction. Fortunately, subtraction is very, very easy. You convert subtraction into addition, and then you use the rules of addition that we just talked about. So whenever you have a subtraction problem, for example, you have 7 minus 9. So this is a subtraction between two integers. We don't have rules for subtraction. We have rules for addition. So our job is to convert subtraction into addition. And the way you do this is very simple. To convert a subtraction problem into an addition problem, so you first change the subtraction into an addition, and then you take the opposite of the second number. Now don't forget, this number, the 9, is right now a positive 9. This minus belongs to the subtraction operation. Thus, the opposite of positive 9 is -9. And I'm going to cut this video short, and this is going to be part 1, and there's going to be a part 2 in just a little bit.